when sin gets its talons, and when sin almost blindfolds us, where you don't even see the truth.
Yeah.
And even if somebody told you the truth, I'm not sure you'd respond to some people.
Yeah.
I think there has to come a time when the person involved either hits bottom or finally realizes, I gotta change.
Yeah.
People can talk to you about it, but there has to be a time when the person involved has to make up his mind. There's nowhere to go but to the Lord, and when that's the case, hello, that's life. I mean, I think it would be well worth putting out there, because, look, man, if there's anything I know about Christ, he was, man, a defender of the defenseless, or the helper of the helpless. I mean, he was, I ain't saying, he would be volunteering at every one of these. And I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
But I know that he probably would like his children to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's been it's been so cool watching their little girl grow up a little bit, and just and I'm not there every day, obviously, but I see her quite a bit, and I saw her yesterday at the cookout for Reese's class, and just seeing my kids with her, for one, and then just seeing her, man, she'll light up a room when you walk into it.
Oh,
She's
yes.
as sweet as she can be.
She did at that little restaurant we were at. I was like, my goodness. So
yeah,
she's a special child. You can tell that man. She just just loves people.
Yeah, she's
and,
got a cool heart.
And Christian graduated.
He did.
That was cool.
Me and Dad were joking about it, though. Me and Dad especially, Dad logged more miles Sunday than they logged at Wilkesboro, because he got up that morning. Him and Mama drove down here for graduation.
Oh, I bet. Then you drove all the way to Wilkesboro.
I changed in the parking lot. We headed to Wilkesboro. Now, Dad about scared me. I didn't realize he was in such a hurry to get up there for the modified race. Mm-hmm. The modified race started at 2, I think.
Oh, man. So y'all did have to hustle.
We weren't going to make it by the beginning. He was hoping to get there by the very end, maybe catch a few laps of it. And I just thought, he kind of wanted to. So I headed up, driving up, whatever, got there about 3. Well, then we got there, he said, I'll drive to the track. We got in his truck, and he could have probably put a hurting on them guys in time trials on the way up there. And I realized on the way up there, he would have won
the race if he'd have been in it.
I told him, I said, if you'd have told me it was that important to you, I could have put an extra 5 miles an hour on it on the way up here and saved us more time than you did on that trip. But he was hauling it to get up there. But they had about, when we got there, I think there were 110 laps into it, and about 90 of them had been under caution. So we caught we caught the end of it. But
I would say that I thought the All-Star race was decent.
It was a real, was it the Open or the All-Star race? I think it was the Open where they took it 4 wide going into 3.
And the All-Star race one time did that, but I thought overall I was kind of impressed, because
I was too.
I have seen some races at Wilkesboro that,
even old school races at Wilkesboro could get a little strung out, boring.
One person in the lead the whole time. That was. And it used to make me so mad when I was a kid and really, really, really liked wrestling. It was Brett Bodine or Jeff Bodine. It was the Bodine boys. They would always win at Wilkesboro. I'd be like, ugh.
Yeah.
But Harry Gant always ran good at Wilkesboro. I used to love that. But, it was single file and it was very little passing. But they did have some in this one. And but it was pretty good.
Well, I loved the end of it, and Dad did too. Me and Dad were talking about it on the way up there. He and I have always kind of pulled for generally the same people, and kind of not like generally the same people, but we've never had the exact same favorite or the exact same least favorite until Joey Logano came along.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's everybody's least favorite.
We're as unified in our disapproval of him as we've ever been in anything.
He is the Jeff Bodine of this century.
Yeah.
Because nobody liked him back then.
And when he got pushed out of the way, they're coming into 4, about 20 to go there. The whole section's lost. And me and Dad get just biggest smile.
Love it.
We had a good time.
Love to see that 22 go backwards. and I was happy to see Bell win. I like him.
I like Bell.
And I've always been a fan of Joe Gibbs racing, and Joe Gibbs especially.
Oh, yeah.
Washington Redskins, but then also he's a class act, Christian guy. Mm-hmm. But I just wish Kyle Busch was still with him, because I think they were a better team than when he's not with him.
Yeah. So. Well, both. I think Bush has slipped a little bit since going to RCR, and it's
and RCR used to be the dominant team. Now it's just kind of mid at best, and I hate to see it, because he needs to start winning. But anyway, he will. But I wish he was still with Joe Gibbs, because I think they made a great team, and there's a part of me that wonders if, and I hate to say this, but I think Kyle might be. he's getting to that family age to where his boys and is racing now and might be more interested in that. I don't know. I mean, he's made a living. I don't think he has a race for a living.
I think he's doing all right. I think they got their mortgage covered next month.
Yeah, I think they're all right. And and I know the boy wins every time he comes to Wake County, and they're his son. Yeah. So good little race car driver. I think he's going to be just as good as his daddy.
Yeah.
Then again, you never know what happens.
Oh, yeah. He's still pretty young. What is he, like 10, 12?
Yeah, if that. Yeah, I think he was 8 or 9, so he's about 10, I would think.
Yeah. But no, we had a good time. I've never been so worn out as I was Sunday night. I mean, we got home Sunday night, and I was...
Did you drive all the way back here?
No, I went back to Mom and Dad's, stayed there Sunday night. And
that was a big day, busy day.
Big day, yeah.
And you started early, too. I mean, you were here for the 8:30 service.
Well, and it was a busy weekend before that, so I ended up, it was the weekend that I wouldn't usually have any of the kids, but we had a member golf tournament at Sully's Golf and Gathering Garner, and I signed me and Reese up for that. She was my partner. So we had that Saturday night, and then Christian ended up needing to step in and help out and keep him the weekend. So he was my 2-man partner on Friday night. I went up there and played with him and had a good time. So it ended up being between juggling around and having the kids, and then, like you said, Sunday was a full
graduation.
Day. So I ended up not getting last week's show out until today. I got to about Friday, and I realized,
hadn't done the show.
I had done the show, but I just hadn't really had a chance to really think about the name and the description and all those little finishing touches that don't.
Yeah.
I got the show done.
That can happen when you're in the quiet time.
Right. Yeah. I hadn't had any quiet time, and a lot of times I don't need but 10 minutes. But heck, I didn't get 10 minutes for 3 or 4 days. I finally got to think about it. I said, well, we're going to be missing 2 weeks in a row. So if I drag that one to Monday or Tuesday, and then I'll drag this one to about next Friday, we can kind of space it in there. So I use that as my cop out, and I didn't get it out till today.
And Kenny's looking nice today.
He is.
He's decked out in polo gear as if he's going to play golf.
No, Renee actually picked it up.
Yeah.
How often does Renee pick out your clothes? Be honest.
Well, she did. I think she likes to do it. I mean, I can, but she just sometimes that's just her. She wants to do it. She wants to take care of somebody.
Well, you look nice. She tell her kudos and congratulations and atta girl, whatever you want to give to her to make sure to know that hey, she did a good job today. Because it really does. And you got a haircut.
I was gonna say, I hear she signed him up for a haircut too.
Or did you have a haircut last week? I can't remember.
I'm getting ready for 4th of July. Starting my wardrobe right now. I've got the whites.
Tell her. Okay, she's got to work on the sock and shoe game. But that's probably she leaves that to you, thinking to be sure he can't mess that up. And well,
so I'm starting early.
Okay.
No, you look nice, man. It's good to see you. And I was just telling him he did a great job. Had a deacons meeting this past Sunday and did a great job leading those guys and helping those deacons to discover who they are and what they're supposed to be doing. Is a deacon is a servant according to the scriptures, not somebody that's running the show, not somebody who's supposed to have all the authority. No, a deacon is a servant. If they wait on tables, they put on a towel and go through the dust is the Greek word there. So very interesting.
But we all should do
the way
that.
they should be. Should be.
Really, we're all supposed to do that.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about
it's
before.
It's just a different level. That's all.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about before I hit recording. This might be a good time to plug it if I'm going to on the show. That Heather was just texting me right before I came in here about an opportunity. She's involved very heavily with NCDSA, the North Carolina Down Syndrome Alliance, and she was asking me to ask around at church and just kind of get it out there for volunteer opportunities that they have a camp. So children with Down syndrome, a lot of your summer camps don't accommodate children with special needs. So they've got a summer camp, two weeks long, 2 separate weeks. There's July 7th through the 11th and July 14th through the 18th that NCDSA is hosting or putting together a summer camp for children with Down syndrome, and they're looking for volunteers. Volunteers have to be 16 years and up to be counselors at the camps. But there's a website, and I'll put it in the episode description here, volunteer.bloomerang, BLOOMERANG.co. and I'll copy and paste it and put it in the description.
Can you volunteer for like one day?
You can. She said that they'll take volunteers for any time frame.
If you
but
do all of them, we'd love it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but those are the I guess they're first priority is people that can commit for a week. But
Sure.
certainly if you've got a couple of
Tell you
days,
what,
you can
we
do
can.
it.
And they're local.
Yeah,
I was
it's
gonna say,
at,
where is the camp?
she. Let me see here. I think I can pull this up while I'm recording. Let me see. It's Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church in Raleigh. Yeah, Lourdes.
We used to play them in basketball.
Oh, okay.
Beat them like a drum.
Yeah, another website on this page she sent NCDSA Alliance, but the A starts the word alliance, so ncdsalliance.org. The last A there starts alliance. So I'll put both those links in there if anybody knows someone who might be interested in volunteering.
Like a background with volunteering with special needs or Down syndrome children, or I mean, can anybody that just has a heart that wants to help? I guess.
Yeah.
Assume they background check.
I'm assuming, I didn't get a chance to ask her that because I was on about 2 minutes on the phone with her there, but I'm assuming they'll do some type of background check.
I would think you'd almost have to.
But yeah, I don't think you necessarily have to have a background in working with special needs.
You know, one of the special things that I remember, and this is something the Lord used in my life when I was a junior in high school. We had a real good basketball team. And we had a coach who was bound and determined that, all right, we're going to win the championship, but I'm going to make you better people. Mm-hmm. And he would do things like this and say, all right, here's the date. We're going to go serve at the Special Needs Olympics. Mm-hmm. You guys, and after we served all day, he said, all right, you guys have been given a special talent. You can run, you can throw, you can do all these things. Here's some kids that maybe can't do as much as you can, but watch how they try. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it really impacted me as a 17-year-old snot-nosed kid that thought he knew everything. That, okay, so there is more to life than winning in basketball. There's helping others. And man, I tell you what, that you want a blessing. Mm-hmm. Serve with a group that can't necessarily pay you back. Preschool, children, special needs, whatever the case may be.
I'll tell you another good, I don't know if it's lesson is the right word, but another good takeaway, I guess, is that when you have opportunities, whether it's with something with special needs or mission opportunities, like when we went to the mountains or whatever, you get an opportunity to see circumstances don't have to dictate joy. I guess is what I'd say. I mean,
exactly
with especially
you get to see it's real.
Yeah, they're Heather and John's little girl. I mean, it is. She brightens up a room anytime you walk into. She's got the biggest smile, and her eyes just kind of twink when you walk in, and there's so many people out there, that, myself included, big time in this, where one little thing goes wrong in your life and you're grouchy for 2 days from it, or whatever. And it's just a good reminder when you have opportunities to serve others and get plugged in and involved in some of these different things that, sometimes you see people that are having difficulties in life, whether it's special needs kids or whether it's disasters or whether it's whatever else is going on, and they can still have just all the joy in the world, and that's should be an excellent lesson for Christians that we kind of overlook a lot of times.
Yeah,
sure it should.
I think, and you're right, and people gravitate to people that have joy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Yeah,
that's for real.
For sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that is.
And people anti-gravitate towards people that are grumpy.
Yeah,
anti-gravitate word. I think did we make that one up right there?
What's the word we want to say?
I like anti-gravitate. I think that works great. I just don't know if it's in the dictionary.
I think the
yet.
picture of it is, if I'm gravitating towards someone with joy, oftentimes they're going to do the exact opposite for those that are, I'm telling you, being around grumpy people or being around folks that are grumbling and complaining, it's contagious. Number one, it's contagious.
It brings you down.
Yeah, it's contagious, so you might catch it. So I don't know if it's anti-gravitational disease.
And another thing, this would be a good lesson for me, and I guess for Christians too, is people gravitate towards humble people and not people that are full of pride.
So. Oh yeah. Well, look, man. Usually, if somebody's full of pride, the head's so big you can't get in the room.
Right.
And but yeah, humble and real, genuine people tend to make more of an impact than someone else that thinks the world of themselves.
Yeah, who's the one that you like to listen to? Somebody that, I was lucky today. We just barely win, or we were good. Come out there. You know what I'm talking about?
I get you. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Some of
that's
those
the difference
guys-
between like Carolina, who's always arrogant, and State, who's always
now.
Now they talk different when they're playing each other.
right.
They say some choice words, but when they get up on the mic,
It depends
it's
on what
different.
team now.
Yeah.
Don't be throwing everybody in the same bucket. Because North Christian State University does not.
Man, it's starting to stink in here.
NCSU.
Yeah. Speaking of humble athletes, Scotty Scheffler won PGA this weekend. He's always been one of my favorite Christian athletes, period, especially in golf. But he's always tends to be pretty humble.
Yeah.
And when do you remember? It was last year's PGA when he was arrested for the most bogus thing. He basically got arrested for trying to go to the golf tournament.
It was traffic violation type stuff.
It wasn't even a traffic violation. They'd had a tragic situation or somebody
and he's just trying to get
killed.
Yeah.
And he was trying to get in, and apparently one of the workers waved him in, and another one didn't
know who he was.
Yeah, they didn't know who he was, and they arrested him for failing to yield, or whatever. But the way he handled himself through it, I mean, he didn't raise a stink over it. They bailed him out, and he went and shot about 68 and went on with his life, and that
he
was
did
it.
fine.
But I
didn't see much of this week's the tournament.
I didn't see hardly any of it. I watched a little bit of it on Thursday, and I caught I was trying to watch it during the break between the Open and the All-Star race, but the internet service up there was so bad with everybody using it that I couldn't really do it. But I checked the score a couple of times and saw he was walking away with it. But I did watch the last hole last night. When I got home, I had it recorded, so watch that.
And look, nobody's perfect. I know he lost his. I think he lost a little bit of his cool this past weekend.
Oh, did he?
Which, my goodness, if you've ever played golf and you haven't lost your cool, you ain't never played golf then, or tried to be competitive.
I've never done it in my
Really?
life. I've never.
Really? I know I have hit my shin with a club, getting mad, and I got a scar on my shin from I just was like, dadgummit, and just hit my shin with a 7-iron, and that thing has been dented ever since. It always will be. And just a reminder of it's a stupid game, man. There ain't no need to lose your cool.
Think that was kind of stupid to hit yourself?
It was.
Yeah.
I've heard myself
I get to the place now. After I hit a ball, I'm like, all right, just don't get mad.
Knowing you, that just shocks me.
Hey, I used to take it serious.
Yeah.
I had.
I had somebody call me the other day and say, "Hey, man, what can we do to get a golf league up at the church?" And I said, "Oh, I believe we could, and be fun enough, just play together, because he or either a tournament or something to let the olds and the youngs, as he put it, spend some time together." And I'm kind of like, I just don't. I want to make sure whoever's team I'm on, they know I'm not out here for blood. Now, if you're gonna play with me, I may take it serious, but my game is not serious.
Well, I had to. If we ever get that organized or enough people interested, I'm all over that. I'm all over.
Well, I'm gonna put you and Nate on my team.
Okay. That seems like it might be.
It'd be fun. But listen, there's some guys in this church that are real good. They really are. So
I know a few of them that I've heard talking about playing a little bit, but I had to. So sad and true story. So Friday night, Christian was my partner at the 2-man tournament up there, and I got a little aggravated at myself a couple of times. I didn't play as good. They had the launch monitor I was hitting almost a little bit cockeyed, so it was causing me to pull everything to the left. And they had some new mats in there, and that threw me off. And I didn't quite play my best, and I was getting a lot more grouchy than I should be. And if there's ever been a time that you should be not taking it too seriously, it's when your 5-year-old.
Yeah, when you're playing with a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
But
I still wanted to win. Daggone it. I mean, I was still there to win.
I get it.
And I told Reese on Saturday on the way over there for our tournament. Now, she's as competitive as I am.
Yeah.
In fact, she told me last week, she said, "Dad, we better win this thing."
Yeah.
And
we
want to have fun too, but most importantly, we want to win.
We are competitive.
So I told her on the way there, I said, "Now listen, I know I'm wrong for this, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you. If I'm not playing my best, or if it gets a little tense and it's close, I'm going to be pretty competitive, and I might get a little cranky, and you might just need to pay attention and stay out of my way if I get that way. If I tell you don't talk my backswing, you better be listening. You need to, because I know I shouldn't be that way, but I can't help it. So I'm working on it, but I ain't there yet. And but anyway, we had a good time both nights. It was a really good time. So, well, welcome back.
Yeah,
to the other
good
167.
evening.
I think we're about 20 minutes in already.
Yes,
Again, we have a habit
easily.
of that. So, Garrett, Ben, Pastor Ben. I want everybody to know who Pastor is.
It's
You
all
keep
right.
us corralled
You can call
here.
me Ben.
our hour a week to talk about the other 167 hours a week when we're not in church, and how do we keep it on the rails and keep the walk with Jesus genuine,
fresh,
and real every day. So thank y'all for your time, and thank anybody who's listening for listening. But
indeed,
I have one. Kenny's going to love this topic. I think this is right up Kenny's alley. I think you're going to love this.
Look at him. He's just biting.
So first of all,
Perked up.
That man is ready.
He's chomping.
Oh, please give me a
heard
topic
my
I
first
love.
name.
Yes.
So I'll admit something here. On a serious note, first of all, I've become real guilty of this, and it's kind of funny to me that I've become guilty of this. That I'm not as honest probably on the show as I was in the first few episodes of it. Because as you mature in your walk, you think I should know better than that, and you don't really want to admit the things.
Yep.
It's funny, as much as I used to pick on the self-righteous Baptist, doggone if I didn't kind of become one after a while, because you don't mean to, but you know better, so you don't want to share the things that you know better. So, little confession, but it's also ties into a topic. I've gotten so bogged down in my Bible reading because I got to the prophets and I was so excited about Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and I've gotten in there and it's just bogged me down. It's not been nearly. I was expecting something.
It's not as exciting.
I was expecting it to be really exciting. It's not.
To me, reading about the prophet Elijah and Elisha is more exciting than reading the prophet of Isaiah.
Yeah.
Because Elijah is going to call down fire from heaven.
Right.
Elisha is going to have some kids go up thy bald head, and here come some bears.
Yeah.
There's going to be some adventure. Isaiah and Jeremiah is almost like reading sermons, if you think about it. And there are some things that happen, but it's rare.
It is, and to me, it's hard. Really, maybe especially with Ezekiel, but all of them to some extent.
No, Ezekiel's a whole different ballgame into itself.
Well, I don't know how long I've been in Ezekiel. We could go back and listen. I brought it up weeks ago, and I'm only on like chapter 30 now. Yeah. So, and it's not that I've completely quit reading it. I will admit openly, I've not been reading the Bible as much as I should because I'm not really.
Well, you're in the middle of November.
There's that, and it's also when I'm reading. In the Old Testament, or when I was doing the New Testament, it's exciting stuff. I love reading it. I can't wait to pick it up. This has just been kind of bogging me down. I've read the Gospels recently, and I read some of the New Testament too. But as far as progressing through the rest of it, it really has gotten to a point where I hate to use the word, but it's like I'm just trying to fight through it because I want to finish it. It's not the heart you need to have for it. But
and you also got to have the history to know exactly what he's talking about there, because he'll start naming nations now where's that nation, and what back then it was. Then you also got to know the history of what was Judah about to go through, especially for Ezekiel. He's a prophet you talk about somebody who's out of place. Here he is. He's a priest and a prophet in the middle of Babylon, so he's got no temple, no sacrifices to make, and God just shows him some things of the return and everything else and you got to Ezekiel changes gears on you from time to time, and he sees some things that it's like, woof.
Well, and
what in the world, Ezekiel?
And there's parts of it that I can't tell what we're talking about. Are we talking about something that's happening now, something that's going to happen next year, something that's going to happen in 2,000 years? Sometimes it's kind of speaking to 2 or 3 different timelines at the same time, and it's just a little over my head. But
and I would recommend, especially on Isaiah and Ezekiel and some of those, that's where, honestly, getting a good commentary, I recommend the New American Commentator series, which is basically it's the Southern Baptist, but now that's a complicated one. There's some others you can get that is the Word Study Bible, which I've got. There's several good ones that you really need that help you. And what I used to tell people is read a chapter in the Bible, then read that chapter of commentary, and kind of make sure as you go through, don't stop, because if you're going to go chapter 1 all the way to chapter 40 in Ezekiel or further, you need to make sure you have that continuity of what he's talking about and know the history and the background, because that'll help you.
Well, and
if not, you're going to be thinking, this guy, I think Ezekiel must have been eating some mushrooms or something, because he has lost his mind.
Well, and
it makes sense.
And I've got an example of that I'll get back to, I think, because I want to make sure I don't go too far off my. I don't want to forget my main point that I was bringing up here. But last night, something kind of just hit me upside the head as the most obvious thing that forget spiritual maturity as a halfway. If I got half a brain, I shouldn't have missed this. So apparently, I don't have half a brain. But I'm sitting there reading all this stuff, and it's just chapter after chapter of basically God's mad at this nation, and he's going to wipe them off the earth, and then you will know I'm the Lord. And then the next chapter is a different country, and I'm going to wipe you off the face of the earth because of your pride, and then you will know that I'm the Lord. And he does this like 4 or 5 chapters in a row. And it finally occurred to me, I was like, wait a minute. In this particular case, we are talking past tense. We're not talking future. And pause on that for a second, but Reese asked me last week a question that ties into this. She said, the atheists believe one set of things, and we believe another set of things. We think we're right, and they believe they're right. So how do we know who's right? And I said, well, for one, I said, atheists keep having to recalibrate their story ever so often when the science proves them wrong. It reminds me an awful lot of every time I thought I had figured out the key to blackjack. Every time I think I had it figured out, I'd try it wouldn't work, and I'd tweak it a little bit, and then I'd lose again. Then I'd tweak it again, I'd lose again. And it's but the Bible keeps being proven right. The longer we run this race, the more correct the Bible appears, and the more they have to keep recalibrating their story.
Correct.
But as I'm reading this last night, I thought, wait a minute, this isn't future prophecies. These are prophecies that were in the future then, but they've now come to pass. So I start looking them up. I get on Wikipedia and just start looking up these nations, and I look up Tyre, and I look up Sidon, and I look up Moab, and I look up all these different these Philistines,
the Moabites,
and every one of them, you go to Wikipedia, and these were kingdoms in depending on the one
real
from
kingdoms.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't
real kingdoms from, let's call it the 10th to 6th century BC. And you look at what happened, and one of them, I think it was Philistia, or how do you say that one?
Philistia, but
Philistines. Yeah. It was basically Wikipedia says that there's not even a record of these people, really, like written record of it now at this point. They were completely annihilated but the timeline's the same. They're all about mid 6th century BC. And for those who aren't familiar, Ezekiel's writings were early 5th or 6th century BC. So basically, in early 6th century BC, he's saying these countries are going to be wiped out. And fast forward 2,500 years, Wikipedia says about 20 years later they were all wiped out.
Exactly.
So when I sit down to read the Bible, I'm real bad to think of, and this is what kept me maybe from reading it for a long time, like I'm supposed to sit down, read a chapter, and there's some big message I'm going to get out of it. It's not always getting that.
Sometimes it's a lot of times it's not that.
But the simple message from it is he's proving that he's, as he says, then you'll know I'm the Lord.
And that's one of the proofs that you can know that Scripture is true.
Yeah.
Is time and time again, whether it's Luke, the prophecies that came true, but Luke is probably one of the most one of the best examples, because all throughout the book of Acts he references governors, he references cities, he even references ordinances and things like that have been proven time and time again that, okay, these are actual historical documents. Now, the Bible wasn't written as a history book. Right. At the same time, it happened in history. Mm-hmm. So there's some dates you can back up. There's some things that happened, whether it was this king or that king or the fall of this country, that really, whether it's 586 or 722 with the fall of the northern kingdom, it's just so many things that happen that really bring it down to, so this was prophecy, and then boom, it happened.
Right.
And even, naming to some degree, Isaiah names Cyrus, who is going to be the king that basically writes the edict that sends them back. Liberal scholars would say, that's just there's a second author of Isaiah that wrote it years later. That's not, I believe there's one author of Isaiah, and he sat down and wrote as God led, and he called his shot. There's going to be one named Cyrus that's going to send them back, where liberals are going to say, no, that was just written after the fact.
Well, maybe, I don't know if this is the greatest example in the Old Testament, is one you've preached on recently, is one that we've talked about before, but Psalm 22, this is written 1,000 years before
David saw crucifixion
was even a thing, and it predicts.
Sure enough, he's describing it pretty good.
That's right, yeah. And the Old Testament probably seems to be more like a history book than the New Testament, for sure. And
I think it is.
But the thing that And it can be boring. I'll be honest, I'm not a history buff, and I don't love reading, and I don't love reading history books. I don't know if I've ever written a history book.
Well, especially history that ain't.
I've never read a history
If it ain't my history, I love American history
Yeah.
because, this is my country. And let's face facts. Ain't but 250 years of that.
That's right.
250 years is pretty good. You can learn a whole lot about 250
Yeah.
versus this was 6,000, 8,000 years ago, and there's a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
But and the New Testament was only 100 years before the whole New Testament was written. So there's a big difference between the old and new parts of the writing.
I mean, the Old Testament stretches out, and you got from Israelites to, good gracious, you're talking about countries that no longer exist. So there's a lot going on, especially towards the end. When you begin to look at all the prophecies, you just got to know what the countries are. But more importantly, we're talking about the northern kingdom, southern kingdom. Usually it's the southern, because that's the one that lasted the longest. When they went into exile, and then they come out. Now which prophet is this, and about what time frame are you looking at? And that helps you quite a bit, because Ezekiel is right towards the beginning of the exile and throughout the exile.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, even though I'll say it's kind of, I'm not much on reading history, and I find it kind of boring sometimes. It's an important element, I guess, of the entire Bible for me, because part of our history is all that God did 3,000 years ago to prove I'm the real God. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of that. I mean, there's so many people that, you can't prove God's real. How do you prove? Well, he did prove it many, many times over, and that's a big part of the history that you're reading there. Right. And it's it's like you said a long, long time ago. The Bible is one long story, mm-hmm. And not every single chapter that you read. I mean, I find a very hard time to find anything particularly inspirational in the first 15 verses of Matthew.
I used to have somebody, you don't see Christ on every page.
No.
I don't know. I've read some pages that it's like, I see God's character maybe, but I don't know that I see it on every page. But the overarching theme is there.
He has a point for including every word. There is a reason to have the genealogies. There's a reason to have all these different numbers and all these different things. But to sit there and think you're going to pick one passage and you're automatically going to be inspired in some way, not all of them are going to apply to your life.
Preach the world's greatest sermon.
So this is Ezekiel 29:13-16, where he says, at the end of 40 years, I will gather the Egyptians from the peoples and among those who were scattered, and I will turn the fortunes of Egypt and make them return to the land where they will be a lowly kingdom. And even the commentary of the Bible says if you look at that, he didn't, all these other countries he wiped off or a lot of these other countries he just completely wiped out and you never saw them again. But he said Egypt will return, but it will not be at its
never
same
be the
level.
power it was.
Well, what's happened since then? Egypt is still a nation, but it's not the power that it was.
No, it's never
at
been
that time.
the greatest world power like it was. So it's right.
Yeah, I mean, and this is like you said, calling your shot 20, 30 years right before it happens, or I don't even know if it was always that long, but it goes from its history to really, really cool history all of a sudden when you start. What would have happened if if a quote unquote prophet from 1600 had prophesied against Great Britain and said that your colonists are going to leave and form a great nation against you and all this kind of stuff, and then it came to pass 100 years later? Boy, that would be some really interesting literature now to see these things happen.
I believe it.
And this is ancient. And it's spot on.
Exactly.
So another thing that I think is maybe worth talking about a little bit is it can be, there's some parts of these prophecies that God seems a little bit mean, and he's doing there's some pretty rough things happen to these people, and you can think, his wrath is, maybe they did deserve it, but man, his wrath. But another thing that I think is important to remember there is that in a lot of these prophecies, he's basically saying, I'm going to turn you over to the things that you've worshipped above me, and basically you've wanted nothing to do with me, so fine. I guess maybe the question is, and it's not necessarily a definite. I think in some cases it might be one, in other cases it might be the other. But how much of it was God intervening and making all these bad things happen, like the Pharaoh in Exodus? Right. Yes, he was bringing on these plagues. God was doing these things. But a lot of these things in the prophets, they were already godless. He was just basically saying, I'm going to let the evil that you're doing run its course, and you're going to. sin has a consequence, and worshiping false idols and worshiping these other gods and living these immoral lives and these terrible, all these things have consequences. I'm just going to get out of the way and let you destroy each other because that's what you deserve. I don't know if there is one or the other, or a little bit of both, but how much would you say in these prophecies was these judgments of God in the prophets was the hand of God reaching down and actively doing something to destroy them versus just letting the ones that were...
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, Deuteronomy 28, the end of Leviticus, but especially Deuteronomy 28, 29, and 30, but especially 28 tells them that you're going to go and follow other gods, and when you do follow these other gods, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you... And he describes... he describes a city under siege by like no other business. I mean, the Deuteronomy 28, there are parts that you read that you're like, oh, that would never happen. Such as you're going to end up cannibalizing your children because you're trapped. And lo and behold, when the Babylonians came in and did that, there was historical evidence of that. So he told them it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And as they made those decisions, then God began to bring it together. And I think some of the prophets were used to try to call them back and to say, you've been warned. Yeah. From Deuteronomy 28, you've been warned. And you have now gotten to that line. If you don't stop, it's going to happen. And for the most part, hey, at least it was God trying me. He tells Isaiah, go and talk to my people, but I'm going to go ahead and let you know they ain't going to listen. Mm-hmm. But go ahead and tell them. Yeah. And thanks for the assignment there of getting to go preach to people that ain't going to listen. And that's exactly what he tells Isaiah is they're not going to hearken unto you, but I'm sending a warning because I care. But even if they don't turn their hearts, then it's going to lead to what I promised. Yeah. So it's a little combination of both. I mean, it's God warning, but at the same time, God delivering what He warned.
Or did they just? I don't know if God delivered. Well, I wouldn't say God. I think they destroyed themselves. The wages of sin is death.
Well, He put it out there for them to know.
Yeah. I mean, he this is what's going to happen.
Well, but He's bringing it upon them that what they deserve. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, I wasn't saying that it was God and they didn't have a part in it. Yeah. No, every bit of it was their part. But they had been warned from the early onset of even Moses' last words to them was a warning.
I think it goes back to Eve. The devil didn't show her the bad side of sin. No. Sin looked good to her.
Yeah. Well, why would he do that?
Yeah, I mean, there is a good side of sin that is appealing.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be, or we wouldn't do it. Yeah.
But then, the end is death, and Romans 6:23 still stands.
Yeah. You don't see the hook.
Right.
Yeah. But the bait looks nice. The glitter. Yeah. The bait looks nice, but the hook is sharp and does a number on you.
And eventually, I'm assuming, because I think a sin works this way, you get so hard eventually that you can't see straight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like people when they get older, you would think that they would, and I've said this before, you would think that they would be in a hurry to what's going to happen, but they're not. They think they're going to live forever. And death catches everybody by surprise. Yeah. I mean, I've seen people in the 90s, 100s say, I'm going to live forever. Are you sure? I don't know of anybody older than you.
Yeah. Well, and I say it all the time at just about every funeral is I know what the mortality rate is. Yeah. It's 100%. And then I always follow it up with, we are not in the land of the living going to the land of the dying.
But if you're 95 and you have perfect health, you think you're going to live for a long, long time.
To be sure not.
I know. To me, that's what I'm thinking.
To be sure, when you get to 95, there can't be too many more years left.
But they're not thinking about it. They're not. I don't think it really. People at that age that don't have Christ, and I don't know but I think they just don't. They're not worried about it because they're all right now.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, you would know more than that about that because you deal with people like that all the time.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. So. I appreciate it. Well, you're closer to 95 than I am. Which that's
no. Well, you might, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, what are you, 10 years older than me?
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah.
Oh, we ain't
So
supposed
you
to
born
lie
in
church,
80?
right? Is it?
So you're born in 80 now?
I think,
Born again.
yeah, I was, I've been born twice.
There you go. There you go.
And he now only counts that second birthday. He's counting back
That's right.
around.
Hey,
My Christian age.
There you go.
I love it. Oh man.
I'll give a very I don't want to share this, but I will. A good what I think is an example of this, and there's absolutely no way of proving it one way or the other. It's just a theory, I guess. But I'd been drifting for a long time, and I know that was a long process. But the nuclear meltdown of my life didn't last that long. It was a few months probably, and I don't think I've shared this before. If I did, I've forgotten probably half the stuff I've shared on here, so if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. But when I started gambling a lot, it wasn't an obsession right away, but it became an exponential thing. The more I lost, the more I played, and the more angry I got. Now, there was a point in time, and this is where I hesitate to want to share it because it sounds even today like it's almost a form of pride that I'm trying to defend it. I'm not. But I know statistics, I know probability. And there were so many situations where it seemed like a 1 in 1,000 probability happened to me, and then 5 minutes later, another 1 in 500 happened, and then another 1 in 5. It was like time after time after time, I would get just bam, 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 like a speed bag hit me upside the head of bad breaks.
So a sure thing wasn't a sure thing.
Right, yeah, and it was like even, me being the math junkie that I am, I know that the statistical probability of 200 to 1 shots hitting you in the head back to back are 10,000 to 1,
Right.
and then having that happen 2 times is 1,000,000 to 1, whatever it is. And it got to a point where, and I'm sure I was biased in my, you always remember the bad breaks, not the good ones. But there was a point in time where I felt like my luck was so bad that I wanted to sit down and really spreadsheet this out and figure out, is this even statistically possible that I could lose this much this quick?
Or if we could get somebody to bet the opposite of what I'm betting,
Yeah,
we
it would
could
be-
go in together and be all right.
Now, some real life variables in play there. It was online poker. Okay,
Right.
There are computers
Okay.
and algorithms. People can cheat that. There's
Yeah.
the fact that I trusted a website to be honest and ethical in their dealings with the public. I mean, sure, there may have been a slight real world example of why my luck was worse than the probability could be. Or frankly, I could be biased and it might not have been as bad as I thought it was. It might just be that I played so fast that I just ran through the law of large numbers, hit me faster than it did most people. But I mean, it didn't take me but a couple of months to just completely crater. And I look at it now and I think, how much of that was God saying, you're going to do this one way or the other. Let's speed this up and get this over with and get you back on the right track as soon as we can. And I am going to intervene a little here and go ahead and just let you. Nothing that I do is going to change it.
Right.
So you're not going to listen to me. Let's go ahead and do it quick. And
Let's let you sink fast.
that's right. And I don't know if, again, it's theory. I have no idea if it's true or not. But I think that it can be both. It's not that God intervened and made me do stupid things. But I can see once you've made the decision to, I'm going to do stupid things, him say, okay, well, let's speed it up and rip this Band-Aid off fast and get you back where we need it to be.
And it can be we just get to where they become easier.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid things become easier, or sin becomes easier. A lot because of the conscience being seared, or we just think that won't happen again, or I'm going to do something different, and we end up doing the same dadgum thing.
Yeah. Well, we've hit a hard break there. Nobody's got anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I just think it's
I'm with you.
those are some hard lessons of life too to have to live through. My goodness, especially when it's hard and it's one that I know better and there's no way we can lose again, or there's no way this is going to happen. And I think it's just evidence of just how when sin gets its talons and when sin almost blindfolds us, where you don't even see the truth.
Yeah.
And even if somebody told you the truth, I'm not sure you'd respond to some people.
Yeah.
Well, I would say yes, that's happened to me.
Yep. And I think there has to come a time when the person involved either hits bottom or finally realizes, I got to change.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the key. People can talk to you about it, but there has to be a time when the person involved has to make up his mind. man, we got to turn this thing around.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I have hit the absolute bottom I can go.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go but to the Lord. And when that's the case, hello, that's life.
Well, then he can use it to help other people.
Certainly. I mean, don't waste those hurts. Don't waste those dark times.
Yeah, and this is not a bad thing or a good thing, but it reminds me of a true story that I was told Sunday, before, I think it was before WeCare. No, it was Mother's Day.
Okay.
No, it was after Mother's Day. I was out talking to a person. I kind of knew their situation, but I wanted to clear it with him before I did anything for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And so I talked to him because they had lost their only child, and so I knew how to handle it, and by talking to him that she would be all right, and that she would love it to say Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day to her and that. But then he told me that their best friend, and I think you know this part of the story, their best friend also had one child, and passed away, just out of the blue. And because they went through it, they know how to minister to him,
That's right.
to that family. And I think a lot of times, when bad things happen to you, it's also an opportunity to help other people that are facing that same situation.
What's
Yeah.
the passage that you can back that up with,
No, but I'm sure you got one. I hadn't gotten that far yet, but tell me.
Well, it's 2 Corinthians 1, which says this, verse 3 and 4, Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Listen to his names, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort. Now listen to this, who comforts us in our affliction so that we will be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves have been comforted.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
There you go. Look at that. But I mean, God, don't waste your hurts.
Right.
God takes you through those difficult times so that you can minister to people who are about to go through those
And a
difficult
good thing,
times.
you can't fool, being an alcoholic, you can't fool an alcoholic because they know all the tricks. Addiction to gambling, person you can't fool you because you already been there too.
Yeah.
So you know when they're serious and when they're not.
Yeah.
But you also know the jonesing, if you will, or the drive, or I got to do this, or I'm gonna win it all back today.
Yeah.
No.
Question, or someone wanted to talk about from your sermon Sunday. There was an analogy you gave of when rearranging the furniture in your house, and if somebody comes into your house and tries to tell you how to rearrange where you've got to put things in your house, you wouldn't like that too much. And it was the way you told it. When you got to the point where you explained the analogy, it wasn't. I saw what you were saying. I was like, oh, that's what he meant by that. That wasn't what I was thinking. I was thinking something different. But your way was great, and there's a different way you can look at the same analogy, I think, that plays also. So I wanted to kind of hammer that back and forth a little bit too. So give the analogy.
Well,
again
I think it's one of the verses, Colossians chapter 3, should be verse 16, which says, let the word of Christ richly dwell. That means to set up shop, to be residence, to make itself at home in your life. And how you can tell someone is residence in a home is they get to call where the furniture is going to go. Mm-hmm. And my illustration is if somebody just walked in out of the blue and said, hey, your chair it's ugly, I don't like it, it needs to go out. Wait a minute, you don't live here. You don't call the shots. Mm-hmm. The one who's in authority calls the shots. And then, my part that I was saying is, in my home, there's physical home. There's two people who have authority to say where furniture goes, and only one of them really counts.
Right.
And that's Renee. Because if I come in there and say, hey, I just bought a brand new couch, or better yet, I found this couch on the side of the road that said free. I thought it'd be great in here. I can go ahead and tell you, you're going to get that. It goes in your barn, or it goes. Take that to your office. I used to have an old gold chair that now is up in Chapel Hill in an apartment with two boys. That it is ratty as it can be. But that used to be my grandfather's chair. Was my chair. But it never made it to the new houses.
Yeah.
It made it to the first two houses, but then the third and fourth house, it never made it. Because why? Renee said, that's an ugly chair. It ain't going in here.
Right.
But it's one of the most comfortable chairs you've ever sat in.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that there's two people, but there's only one person that has the right.
Well, all right. And everybody knew as soon as I said that,
Yeah.
every husband was like, well, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'd love to know the head count on how many eyes were on Renee when you said that.
Yeah.
I think everybody
who's been married knew.
I bet from your view in the pulpit, you saw every head turn this way, right?
Well, and Renee's already, she knows. Yeah, you're darn right. So really what it means is I dictate what goes where. I richly dwell. I want to make sure I'm comfortable, so my chair is going to go here. You might come in, and so really what it is the word of Christ. Not only does the peace of Christ kind of kick out thoughts that doesn't belong, the word of Christ tells us and directs us of how we should live and what goes where in our lives. It kind of orchestrates, it directs us, if you will. So that's really what I was getting at.
Nice looking barn.
I got several couches out there.
Well, as you were telling as you were giving the analogy or in that part of the sermon, I thought, well, I don't know if I thought I knew where you were going exactly, but I liked where it landed, and I was like, oh, okay. It was almost like a little, that was, I get that, because I had it going maybe in a little bit different direction in my mind, and I think it's kind of two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, help me to see which side
you want
to go.
But on the one side, you were saying Christ should come in and he calls the shots.
And he calls the shots.
He comes into your residence essentially and says, this goes here, this goes there, and we're going to get rid of the
dwells.
things.
Yeah.
Right. This has to go,
Yeah.
and that's a great example of what it should look like. And then at the same time, I'm thinking of it from the opposite side of that coin and saying, okay, when two different ways you can say this. Number one, are we looking at Jesus being a guest in our heart or residing in our hearts? Because I think a lot of times he comes in and he tells us what to do with things, and we're like, no, this is my home. You just hang out where we are. We ain't rearranging anything. Yeah. But then the other side of it, I could take it macro, I guess, and say, aren't we kind of doing the opposite of that when we're telling God how to rearrange things in his world here?
Sure.
I mean, this is his world we're living in, and we're telling him we know.
Yeah, and I think that was, I want to say, I hope, and I thought, well, I don't know if I said it or not, but I know in my notes I had written, notice it says dwell, not visit. Mm-hmm. Notice it says dwell, not just a guest.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I invite you over to my house, you're a guest. Mm-hmm. I'll let you sit in my chair, but you ain't going to tell me it's got to go outside, or you're going to need to slide it over here and move the TV over there because, by the way, I like watching it there. Well, that's good. I'm glad you do for the time you're here, but it's going to go back the way I want it because that's who is it that has authority. So that's exactly right. And so I think it is one of dwelling versus just a guest. Yeah. And we're supposed to let it live, take up residence. It makes itself comfortable to where it's there. But no, and I love that illustration of the peace of Christ dwelling in your, ruling in your house, in your heart, and then the word of Christ dwelling. It just gives us two things that should direct and guide our lives, if you will, of what goes in our minds, but also what we're putting in our hearts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We were talking about Ezekiel earlier. I said I wanted to come back and have another question or an example to. All right, so we got a couple minutes here, we can do this, but. You were talking about the importance of having a commentary when you're reading through things to go back and kind of, and this was a good example of that because I read this passage, I won't read the whole thing, but Ezekiel 28, starting about verse 13, you have the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty, and that runs through about verse 19. And I'm reading this, and he's talking about Tyre, but I'm reading this and thinking, okay, there's more layers to this than just the country, obviously. And it was a good thing that I read the commentary because the commentary is saying essentially that it's talking about Tyre, but it's also talking about Satan.
Yeah.
And that's not completely the opposite of where I was thinking, but I was also kind of thinking of it as talking almost to humanity in a way of that we were put here originally in Adam, blameless in our ways, and then we corrupted it with our pride and all and our sin and all these things. So I don't know. I guess I brought it up to say, number one, I did not even reading through that the first time, it never hit me that it could have anything to do with Satan. The commentary pointed that part out.
Especially you were in Eden, the garden of God.
Right.
Well, that's the very first thing. So.
Yeah. And I guess I was seeing that as a symbolic of, and I don't think this is the right way at all of looking at it, but is because we are not born in the very first, where you have the seal of perfection. We're not born with the seal of perfection. We're born into sin.
Right.
But mankind, Adam, was born in with the seal of perfection. We just ruined it immediately.
Right. And for that matter, I mean, angels are created beings. I don't know that they were created sinners or sin. Right. They chose. So you could say that seal of perfection was there too. So I mean, it is a tough chapter. I'm not sure that it is. I think ideally it was first and foremost about the king of Tyre and the nation, but I think it is just like. And I don't want to go too far with this, and I may hesitate, I may regret saying this, but just like there are types and archetypes and photo or pictures of things we've been looking at Christ in the Old Testament, a Passover lamb, Yom Kippur and the sacrifices, the scapegoat and the goat. There are pictures of Jesus all throughout. I think this is, in a way, a picture of the enemy and how his fall happened and everything else. And so I don't know that it is a word for word, this is how it took place, but it is a liken to it that it helps us to understand where the enemy came from. And the fact that he clothes himself or disguises himself as an angel of light, well, that kind of describes, covered in every precious stone. I mean, there's a lot going on there that would help you to see, you're right. There's a lot more going on here than just prophecy against Tyre.
Well, another example of something that the commentary helped me on was 28:3 through 5, I guess is what the note's on, when it says, "Behold, you were wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that is a match for you. Your wisdom and understanding, you have acquired riches for yourself and have acquired gold and silver for your treasures. By your great wisdom, by your trade, you have increased your riches, and your heart is lifted up because of your riches." The commentary says that was sarcasm, basically. And and it's important to know that we talk about the personality of Jesus, and were there times that he was a little sarcastic? Were there times he was this is God in Ezekiel being sarcastic and saying, "Oh, you thought you were wiser than Daniel, and you look at all these great things." So it's important to pick up on that, because if you do you ever watch Big Bang Theory? Sheldon sometimes doesn't get sarcasm very well. They have to hold a sign up. If you are reading the Bible and you don't catch sarcasm and you read that, that's very confusing. Yeah. Because it sounds like you were wiser than Daniel and you've done all these great... No, it was the absolute opposite of what God was saying there. So there's a lot of places in there where the commentary needs to point out God's sarcasm, I guess.
You looking up Isaiah 14?
Oh, actually, I was looking for something else. Oh. But let me ask you this, because
Isaiah 14 is likened to Ezekiel, that... but you said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven, I will raise my throne above the stars of God, and I will sit on the Mount of Assembly. And he talks about how he's fallen from heaven, you star of the morning. There are many that would say, okay, that's a picture or a like type of Satan himself. So there are several places, Ezekiel, which you said, Isaiah 14, that kind of give a picture of that. But I think Paul probably captures I think one of the best pictures of him disguising himself as the angel of light, blinding the people of this age. The small g of this world has blinded the people, spiritually blinded is what he loves to do. So there's a lot there that you can read into who Satan is and what he does.
The one thing I've had,
but a commentary you have, especially for the prophets.
The prophets just can go from one side, then all of a sudden switch,
one nation to the next nation.
180, it goes somewhere else, and it's really tough to
past
really
to
follow
the present
that.
To the future,
and then back.
Sure,
we're talking about the past and the present and the future, then back to it's just all. Over
sometimes 2 or 3 of those at the same time. I mean, there's so much imagery that's going on there that there's times it's
and there are times it could be all three. That he is capturing
Let me ask you a question on that, and sometimes I've wondered, is do you think, is it possible that part of it could be that in order to be in our Bible, or should I say a prophet to be
Accepted
from God and accepted, that he needed to talk about something that was going on in the present, so it be fulfilled, because that is one reason.
There's got to be. You got to have some way to test it. And God
Yes.
said, "Here's the way you can tell a prophet is from God." Because they make 100 on the final exam.
But do you think some of that some of that could be possibly that he's talking about, because Isaiah talks about the near future,
Sure.
the
700 years from here, when Christ is
just
born.
go on and talking about way in the past.
Sure.
Do you think sometimes that he also, that is to verify
Sure.
that Isaiah was a
Absolutely.
prophet from God?
Absolutely. I
that's
think
kinda,
it's. I mean, anybody can make predictions. Anybody can
but
say anything.
They have to come true.
Yeah.
And they have to come true within his lifetime or shortly
Or I used to say any lunatic can claim to be God. But right, so how you gonna prove it? And I think that's part of what God does is if he's claiming to be a prophet of God, got to be some way you can prove it. And there is. You got to test his work, test his words.
But I'm going to tell you, Isaiah is not written from day. It's not chronological by any means. It's just all over the place. Ezekiel is too.
Yeah. No, the prophets can be, but they're fun to study, especially if you get the right commentary. They are fun to study, and they are fun to look ahead. Some of them are going to make predictions about Christ. I mean, hey, Ezekiel, when he, it's Jeremiah I'm thinking about, but Ezekiel also, talking about giving us new hearts, and Jeremiah putting, a new covenant. I mean, there's some great stuff in there that really you got to sit back and say, man, this is top-notch stuff of pointing to Christ.
I think a lot of my Old Testament frustrations, maybe, I think it'd be interesting to go back through it another time or the next time I go through the Old Testament, because there were a whole lot of examples, and this is one of them, where I get 30 chapters into a book before I realize, oh, that's what this book was about. It took me 30 chapters to realize what Ezekiel was really getting at. And now it's like, oh, okay, well, now I'll enjoy the last 18 a little differently, right?
Yeah, sometimes you don't even do that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sidebar, lighthearted question. So Sunday morning, you've got a couple of little one line. You got Sunday morning. You know what that means. That's always a Ben-ism.
I changed it.
Yeah, did you change this week?
I said it's early.
It's early. I missed that part.
Yeah, my wife came home. She said, "I caught that," and I said, "Yeah, I didn't know if anybody would. It's early. You know what that means. I got to preach hard to keep you awake."
But you've said something, and this is not. I'm not. It might sound like I'm picking at you a little bit. I'm actually not. There's a question in this. You've said multiple weeks, probably in a row, this is the most important sermon that I've ever preached or you'll ever hear.
Yeah.
And you said it so many times. I've wondered, is there some truth in that gist?
I think it's just I get so excited, or I get so caught up on, man, this is key. And honestly, when you look at Colossians 3, I can make the argument Exodus 12 is one of the most important chapters in the Bible because it talks about the Passover lamb, and it's a picture of what Christ came to do. Colossians 3, man, that verses 12 through 17, if you talk about a good way to live your life each and every day, if you want to live a productive Christian life, then that's 5-6 verses that are going to help you. To know it, put on you get your direction, and then go and display. You have your purpose of what life is there. You have what you're called to do, how you do it. It is. And maybe that's just maybe it is just me that I get excited about. Man, this is a verse. This is key. I want to tell you this is important, and maybe I need to stop using that word of most important. This is a useful chapter, or this is really going to help you. Maybe I need to think about my wording. And I get a little, maybe I've been listening to our president too much of how he's always, oh, you're the best. This is the biggest beautiful deal you'll ever see. And maybe that's where I'm getting it from, is the superlatives become too easy.
Well, I guess I was wondering if there was, because I'm listening to it, and I jotted it down finally this week. Most important sermon. This is like the 8th most important one in a row. Yeah. And
keep coming out with good stuff, man.
Yeah. And there's two serious points to that, though. Number one is you can take multiple passage of the Bible and make an argument that this is the most important one.
Yeah.
I can make an argument that Romans 8:28,
Romans 12,
Matthew 6:23,
or 6:33. Yep.
Yeah, 6:33. Yeah.
Romans 12, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think it's one of, and maybe I should preface with all the passages are important.
Right.
It's just some are just a whole lot more deep, maybe, but all of them are important. But yeah, it's just it's a habit.
Well, but as you said that, I'm sitting there thinking, I don't think you should stop saying
No,
that. I think it's
I'll
because
still
the
say it.
point-
I might change how I say it. You know, I'll say, look, this is a passage that can impact your life.
Well, I would say
Something
that
like that.
Maybe you could do a series of sermons, the best of the best.
the most important of the most important. Yeah.
Best of
Whatever I'm preaching on.
Yeah.
That's it. No, I had somebody in the prayer meeting. We meet Sunday mornings before we church and everything else, and we always have a good time of prayer. And somebody just kind of said, I just love that every time you stand up there, this is my favorite passage of Scripture.
Yeah.
And they said, I don't know how many favorite passages of Scripture you got.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it really is what I've been studying that week, because it becomes
becomes real.
well, you dive into it and you begin to look into it, and it's like, golly, look at that. And it's, I don't know, it just becomes color instead of black and white. It becomes, genuine instead of just a theory.
Well, I think it speaks to the Word of God being an active and living thing in your life, and I would submit for your consideration that each sermon is the most important one you're ever going to hear, because it's the next one.
That's
it's
right.
always the next.
That's right.
You can't.
Kind of like the next game.
That's right. I can always. You sit here on sports all the time. Most important game's the next one. And I didn't know if there was if that might be like the under the surface reason you kept saying that.
It isn't. It's just
but
because, man, I have studied it all week, and I'm like, man, I hope they'll get this.
Yeah.
And here's why I hope they get it, because
Yeah.
if they'll understand how to, get dressed, get to new direction, and go and display, man, they'll make a difference in this church. They'll make a difference in their lives.
Yeah.
If they can just comprehend how much Christ loves them and what it means that He's the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. And it kind of does lay the whole, Exodus 12 lays a picture of what Christ came to do. So you kind of understand all those sacrifices, and you understand what propitiation and what satisfaction of wrath looks like.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons. This is one of the most important. And it may have been that, hey, I may even read a commentary or two throughout the week about the same thing that said, this is truly one of the most, because I remember somebody saying that about Exodus 12, because, if you get this down, then you understand why Christ came.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming that when you do your sermon, you dissect it word by word.
Phrase by phrase, verse by verse.
And not necessarily by content. I mean, you go down and look at each word.
Well, I mean, especially think about Colossians 3.
Yeah.
We need to look at, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Well, that's a phrase that we better know what that means.
Yeah.
So let's look at that. Let the word of Christ richly dwell. Well, how's that going to work out? And if you get those, man, it'll impact the way you live.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I like what you do in that you're not trying to just cover ground.
Right. Yeah.
As much as that. I mean, I can live with reading 2 or 3 verses a week if I dissect.
Dwell on them. Yeah, dwell on them, chew on them, meditate
That
on them.
works better for me than reading a whole book. That's just me.
Sure.
But,
and each person's different. I mean, here there's several things I incorporate. I like to make myself read, and again, not legalistic, but I like to make myself read 50 verses a day.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's part of my study. I also like to read one chapter in the morning, one chapter in the middle, and one chapter at the end of the day. Sometimes that's hard because in the middle of the day it's so busy, so I have to double up sometimes at night. But if you do the book of Philippians that way, you'll have it read 7 times in a month.
Yeah.
And if you read a book 7 times, it's amazing how much you'll remember of it.
I do. This is just me again. Like, some people do their devotion in the morning.
Sure.
I have had a tendency where I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
So
I like doing mine at the night.
I'm kind of doing mine all day long.
Sure.
You know what
I do
I'm saying?
I do a
I'm
little
not
bit of
saying-
both. It's almost a catch as catch can.
Yeah.
Is okay if I got time in the morning, I'm gonna do
Thinking
it.
about it,
Sure.
driving or like computer in the mornings, researching, typing in that verse. What does that really mean? And just little things like that, instead of just spending the 30 minutes in the morning and forget about and just go on doing something else for the rest of the day. Yeah. I don't get as much doing that because I guess for me, I can't memorize. I mean, I can't remember what I did.
Yeah, and I think there's a big difference between just doing a devotional, reading a little article, just kind of getting your mind right, versus your Bible study, versus your Bible reading. I think there's 4 or 5 different things there that, honestly, let it become all of it.
Yeah.
And your Bible memorization is different than all that too. Is get you a verse and try to memorize it this week.
Well, I memorize verses at night when I'm going to sleep. Mm-hmm. I memorize it and I turn it through my head all night long.
Yep. And that's a good way to go to sleep.
Now that's the only time I really work on memorizing.
Do you like me and you picture the words in your like up on the screen or like in the? That's the way I do it.
I go word by word, memorizing, and then I turn it into my sleep. Turn it around in my sleep all night.
Right.
I turn it.
So I'll make it like go across the screen like almost like the Dow Jones.
Man, y'all on a whole different level than me.
No, that's not being a different. That's not on a different level.
No, it's just different ways we memorize and think about.
See, I pray myself to sleep every night.
And that's a good way.
I hardly ever say amen at night because I intentionally try to pray till I fall asleep.
Well, I mean, that's Paul talks about it early in the morning. Not Paul. David talks about early in the morning I'll seek you, and then upon my night bed, my mind will dwell upon you. So you see there. I really think that it's an all day long event. That's the thing don't make it just a morning devotion. Yeah. Don't just make it a afternoon or right before I go to bed prayer. No, it's an all day thing that, man, God's on my mind. I'm thinking about it. Or maybe it's a verse you'll think about in the middle of the day. And just meditate on it.
It's like prayer without ceasing. It's not that you got to be praying.
That's it.
It's just got to be. I think it's more dwelling as much as you can. Prayer would be, witnessing. And I do have a testimony on that one. Go ahead.
Well, two points. Number one, the other side of what you said about kind of going deeper on one passage is I'm a little bit of both. There have been a lot of times that I'll read something and one word just really stands out and completely changes the way I see a verse. But then there's other times that I need to understand the entire the context, right? And there's been times one of the first times I read Romans 8, I was like, well, I need to go back and read Romans 1 through 7 so I can understand the context of it. But another thing that I'll share a little. I just saw this week, and it was kind of an image, I guess, of how I think we should be. Church on this Sunday morning. I think it was this Sunday morning. Because it was just me and Christian. The older kids came. Mom and Dad picked them up and brought them later. It was just me and Christian during the 8:30 service, and it was almost uncomfortable that he just sat there and stared at me almost the whole time, and he's trying to get as close as he can, and he's rubbing me, and he's just put his head on my shoulder, and there were a bunch of times I had to kind of point and like, shh, I'm trying to pay attention to church, but he just couldn't. And when I got ready to leave, one of the ladies said, I just want you to know that little boy would crawl up inside of you if he could figure out a way to get in there. He could not get close enough. But there's a picture that I think of with God's our Father, and that's we should be in that. We should have that kind of an approach to Him. I can't get close enough. I can't. Yeah. We don't do it the way we should all the time. But that's I've kind of thought on that one a little bit since Sunday. I guess it's just I need to be a little bit more like that, and just it's as a human. It's a little annoying sometimes when he does that, no matter how much it's kind of like, give me some, I need to breathe, kid, but from the, approaching God as with the innocence of a child, that is kind of a picture of it to me, I guess.
I like it.
How close can we get? You got anything? You have a closing?
Well, we're coming up on Memorial Day. It's coming up this weekend, and pray that everybody would have a safe and happy Memorial Day. And, I don't know. Memorial Day is not the official kickoff of summer. I know it is, but that's not the purpose of Memorial Day, nor is it I get a 3-day weekend, let's go to the beach or the lake. Yeah, people do that. Nothing against that. It's a time to remember those soldiers, those brave men and women that gave of their lives that we might have the freedom. And so I think it's a holiday to remember. It's a holiday to honor. And so in all your celebratory cookouts and fireworks or whatever you're going to have this weekend, take the time to sit down and remember. And as I was thinking last night, I'm reminded that God tells us all the time to remember. To remember stuff. Ecclesiastes 12:1. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth. He tells children of Israel over and over again, remember, you were slaves, now you're free. He tells us to remember that if you are shocked that the world hates you, remember, it hated me first. And so there's a lot. We got ordinances where that's all we do is we do it to remember him. And so I just want to just share with you, take this Memorial Day, remember those brave men and women, I think it's 3 or 1.6 million is approximately. I have it in my Flashpoints article this week. Soldiers who have paid the ultimate sacrifice from the battle at Lexington and Concord all the way to today. But I think it's also a time to remember what God's done. And what I mean by that, always remember who God is, what God has done, and what he has promised. And if you'll remember and reflect on that, that's going to help a lot. Who he is, he's the creator, he's the all-sustaining one. What he's done, he's been good and faithful throughout my life. For Israel, he delivered us from slavery. For us, he's delivered us from sin. And then what he's promised. He's promised that we can have everything. He's given us everything we need for life and godliness. He's promised he'll never leave us nor forsake us. So hold on to those promises, and happy Memorial Day. Y'all stay safe out there. Don't do nothing stupid.
That's good. That's pretty good.
That's I tell my children all the time, don't do something stupid, man. Please don't do something stupid. Keaton's headed down to the beach. I said, all right, just don't do nothing stupid.
Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Have a good holiday.
Did Renee go to Wake Chapel?
Renee went to Wake Christian for a little while, yes. Okay. She first started at Midway. Midway used to be school. And then when Midway closed their school, they all came over to Wake Christian. Okay. And we kind of looked down on them because they were the new kids on the block. But she caught my eye. About the 9th grade, she came over. Okay. I thought she did. She went to high school there. And then we were reunited back here in this building as college students. Reunited.
I'll tell you that.
Lucky you.
Feels so good. Trying to think of exactly which one that is.
I'm not sure which one it is. If you know what I'm talking about.
Not really. Okay. That's what I'm saying, not off the top of my head.
Well, and then even...
Do you need any picture frames in that barn? They ain't going to my house.
Oh, man. I can't wait.
I got plenty of them.
Do you?
Yeah, but they ain't
I
going
can
to
tell
my
you.
house.
Nope, that's it. You know, she'll take me furniture shopping, but it is, if I find, I love that. And it's like, okay, stop. Why am I here? But I sure ain't to give my opinion. And if I do, sometimes I do the opposite. I really like that couch. So I might I would set on that. We'll take it. All right. You got to play fast and loose with reverse psychology.